This is Indy Next by Firestone. With live coverage of today's qualifying, this is the IndyCar Radio Network.
Double the points, double the stakes, perhaps double the pressure and fun. As two races on tap this weekend at Laguna Seca, the Indy Next by Firestone Grand Prix of Monterey. And we're going to set the grid for both races here this morning. Thanks so much for joining us on the IndyCar Radio Network. My name is Nick Gilman. Our driver analyst is Davey Hamilton. You'll hear from Mark Janes and Michael Young throughout the course of this qualifying session. Davey, this is a pretty important one because we're going to set the grid for both races here. We'll kind of run down the process, but a lot on the line for these drivers here in this qualifying session.
Yeah, you know, and what perfect day. Sun's out, it's cool out, so grip should be good. It's a cool racetrack, high downforce with the heavy air. Motors are going to run great, so we expect to see some really good times, but you're right. It is important right now to get two races. They qualify both in this session. You need to have a couple consistent laps to try to put yourself up front.
We have split the field of 20 in half, so 10 cars on the racetrack for 12 minutes apiece. The fastest lap that they turn in their the groups will determine their starting position for race number one. Second fastest lap determines their starting position for race number two. And, of course, the fastest driver in either group wins pole position. So we'll kind of keep you abreast of how this plays out. Group number one sees Kyle Collette, Jacob Abel, Callum Hedge, Miles Rowe, Jamie Chadwick, Yuvan Sundaramurthy, Nolan Allard, Jack William Miller, Ricardo Escoto, and Lindsey Brewer, the 10 drivers that are going to be on the racetrack first. And they are making majority of the field out of turn number 11 to start their first lap at speed. Kyle Collette's going to be the first one heading down into turn number 2. While these drivers build some heat in those engines and tires, good opportunity for us to welcome in Michael Young.
Well, good morning, Nick Gilman, and it is a very nice morning here in Monterey at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. 64 the ambient temperature, so already warmer than we had it all day yesterday. Track temperature still very cool, though. 87 degrees is our track temperature to get started in this qualification session. Going to be an exciting one. As again, you said, Nick, everybody trying to build some heat in those Firestone tires, trying to lay down some quick laps for not one, but 2 races this weekend.
And right now, Mark Janes, the important key would be to find a little space, and I'm not sure they've really found that as they're kind of heading up towards the corkscrew.
Yeah, and they need to do it soon, Nick, because the clock's ticking. I mean, obviously the one with the advantage is Kyle Collette because he was the first one to exit pit road, but now as they work their way up the hill and start to set up for the corkscrew, we see Jacob Abel has bought himself a little real estate, but a little further back in the pack, some drivers still trying to sort things out. Miles Rowe says enough with Callum Hedge. He slips around him in the corkscrew, and he starts to climb into the throttle a little bit. They'll clear that timing loop at the bottom of that hill now. We should get some times and speeds posting here very, very shortly.
If you're looking for favorites, let's run you down how things went in the 2 practice sessions yesterday. Who's a threat for pole? Well, everyone's looking at Louis Foster. His quick time at a minute 12.417, just a little bit faster than Kyle Collette, who was strong at a minute 12.571. Then a bit of a drop-off. Reese Gold and Jacob Abel both turned in laps in practice yesterday at a minute 12.9. James Rowe was the final driver in the top 5. Bit of a drop-off to a minute 13.2. So circling Foster, Collette, Gold, and Abel is the 4 to possibly watch here in practice. We're watching Kyle Collette, Mark Janes, as he exits turn number 5.
Sets up for turn number 5 and clears it and starts to go uphill just a little bit. There's a little bit of the crest of the hill right underneath the VP Racing crossover, and then it goes back downhill, swings it to the right, starts the uphill climb again, starting to set up for the corkscrew. A pretty clean entrance to the corkscrew for Kyle Collette. He glides it back down the hill. Little bit of a left-hander, a sweeping left-hander before he sets up for a sharp left-handed turn, and it wiggles just a little bit upon exit, and he's setting up for the final couple of turns.
Boy, Davey, he had the rear end of that car completely hung out heading to the timing line through turn number 9.
Yeah, and you're right. He's the first one out, as you guys mentioned. You think it was a race, as close as they are running together, but it's qualifying, but it did. It swung out there a little bit. Michael mentioned the track is cold right now. It's going to take just a little extra time to get a little heat in these tires, and once they do, I think the grip's going to be really good. But Collette, he's going for it right now. Like I say, you only have 12 minutes, just under 9 minutes left already in this session, so you got to lay it down pretty good.
A minute 13.979, what Collette just did on that first lap at speed. As really nobody has turned a lap close to that, as everybody's looking for space. But the Brazilian stays in the throttle as he heads towards turn number 6. And that race car that's painted much like the Brazilian flag, black with some green, yellow, and blue accentuations. He heads towards the corkscrew, takes that car all the way to driver's left, and lets it drift back to the right before he arcs it down the hill and tries to build that momentum heading to the timing line. Clock already down to about 8 minutes and 15 seconds this time for Kyle Collette across the timing line, and he posts a really nice lap at 1:12.681. That was just a tenth of a second slower than what he did yesterday. But Miles Rowe, he is at full song in car 99 heading towards turn number 11. He just turned his fastest lap of the session at 1:14.478. He'll keep his foot in the throttle, as will Jacob Abel, as they all head down towards the Andretti hairpin into turn number 2. Davey, a spot of the racetrack you absolutely have to get right if you want a good lap here at Laguna Seca.
You know, and it's a great corner because there's several opportunities to take different lines through there. One is take an early entry, let the car slide up, do a late exit. You can get momentum that way, but you also do kind of a high double apex entry and then cut down and you know, try to get on the throttle earlier. So there's two theories of fast ways around that corner. Now, when it comes to race time, it leaves it 2 lines to pass on. We see that all the time. But for qualifying, you need to find whatever's best for you and your car, and that's a key point of this racetrack to catch up and make up time.
Mark James, Jacob Abel is the points leader, but he is seeing that points lead dwindle week by week.
Already setting up for the hairpin, or we should say the corkscrew. He cleared the hairpin some time ago, of course, and he glides it down through the series of turns, the right and then the left, setting up for the right-hander now, which is turn number 9. Now quick setup for turn number 10. Car just in front of him threw some dust up. You'll have to deal with that as he approaches the final turn now. Makes the wide swing, and the car really got loose upon exit. Jacob Abel clears that timing and scoring loop. Can still do no better than P2.
Yeah, it was a good lap at 1:12.72, but that is exactly 1/10 slower than Kyle Collette. So Abel is definitely taking a shot, but not fast enough to knock the Brazilian off the top spot. And Davey, you're kind of seeing a replay of Jacob Abel driving through the smoke. That is something we're used to. I shouldn't call it smoke. It's definitely dust.
Well, it looks like smoke. It could be. Yeah, that dust.
It's got to be a little alarming for these drivers, though, because you see that a lot.
Yeah, you see it a lot. That there was just a kind of, you know, nothing came onto the racetrack, which was good. It was actually Collette that went off and got a little of that dust flying through there. So that lap, this next lap won't be a good one for him. But you're right. And when you come around the corner and you see that poof of smoke, it gets your attention. It makes you want to lift a little bit, and sometimes just on natural reaction, what's happening up there. That could affect Abel's second lap as well.
Yeah, they would probably prefer it to be smoke because that dust and gravel will accumulate on the racetrack throughout the course of a session or a race. As for Kyle Collette, keeps his foot in the throttle. As Davey mentioned, he's going to have to gather it back up. Still sits P1 with 5.5 minutes to go. It is Collette, Abel, Rowe, the top 3. Yuvan Sundaramurthy is 4th. Nolan Aller is 5th quick. Jamie Chadwick is 6th. She just got bumped down a spot as Callum Hedge moved into the top 5. Yuvan Sundaramurthy just put down a pretty decent lap at 1:13.2. That moved him to 3rd. Jack William Miller up to 4th. Miles Rowe 5th. As we continue on here in group number 1 with just about 5 minutes to go. We'll pick up Jacob Abel in that black and white car. Abel Construction, the sponsorship on it, car 51. He is catching Kyle Collette pretty rapidly as they are heading through turns 4 and 5. Collette's going to get to turn 5 first. Mark James as Abel chases him through that 5th corner of the left hand.
Jacob Abel resuming that championship chase, buoyed by 7 top 5 finishes, 7 top 10 finishes. So it's been a good year for Jacob Abel, but he's trying to keep pace. And again, Kyle Collette has taken a long way around. He gets the right sides off, kicks up some dirt and dust, and that gets right into the path of Jacob Abel as we see Kyle Collette working his way through the corkscrew. Jacob Abel still trying to chase him down, trailing him by about 1/10 of a second in timing and scoring.
Davey, I would imagine that kicking up that dust, you don't want to try that too many times. You're only going to get away with that so many times, especially in a race.
We've seen him go off 3 times so far, and so that's definitely not the fast way around, no question about it. Now, you got to remember, he is on top of the charts, no question about it, for race number 1. But you know, the second fast lap is race number 2. So I'm not sure on our timing and scoring. I don't have the second fastest laps of everybody. And so I'm not sure. And let race 2, they'll let us know on that, but I'm not sure who's where on the race number 2 right now.
Yep, so Kyle Collette's the fastest here as we track these cars, setting the grid for both races as he continues to keep his foot in the throttle. I mean, that's the thing, Mark James. He hasn't jumped out of the throttle. That's something we're learning about this young Brazilian. He's pretty fast, pretty fearless as he heads into turn 5.
Well, and he's one of those guys, and it's an old cliche. I don't think it's a matter of if he wins. I think it's a matter of when he wins. And, of course, a good starting position in this series is everything, especially a front row start. And he has really found pace here toward the midway point of the season, and he's kind of racking up the podium finishes as well. And Kyle Collette certainly is not afraid, Nick, to push it to the ragged edge, clearly.
Yep, he continues to stand on that minute 12.627. That would give him the pole in race number 1. Jacob Abel blitzes car 51 down the hill and across the timing line, and he cannot improve. Continues to sit on a minute 12.721. Again, very, very close. Yuven Sundaramurthy showing some speed as well, Davey. He just reset his best lap, continues to sit in 3rd, and he's right there at a minute 13 flat. So car 22 looking pretty good for Yuven Sundaramurthy. Yeah. That's a teammate to Jacob Abel, and you would imagine we get to the second half of the season, some of that setup help is going to help Yuven.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen him every week get better and better, and Yuven's done a good job on just containing what he has and trying to make the best of it without going over that edge. And right now, obviously, as you said, right behind his teammate Abel in that 3rd spot's really good. How about Jack Miller in that 4th position? He's, hasn't been on top of the charts this week, but right now he's looking really good in that 4th position.
Yeah, we'll see if Jack William Miller can get a nice starting position. He's had a couple so far this season. Still looking for that first top 10 in terms of a finish for Jack William Miller. Right now, Kyle Collette is on pole for both races as he's turned 2 really good laps at a minute 12.6. For a 6.2 in race 1, a 6.8 for race number 2, and right now that has him on the provisional pole for both races. Jacob Abel sits 2nd in both the races as well. We see Miles Rowe heading down. Boy, he kicks out the left rear tire, hangs it out sideways, Davey. Grabs back control of that race car, gets it low down for turn number 11.
Yeah, that last corner, a lot of cars, they use up a lot of exit. They go over the rumble strips onto some asphalt and then back across on the straightaway. But the back of the cars really seem to be wiggling and not getting good traction coming to the exit of that corner. It really costed everybody. And that's a 10th or 2 right there, because coming off the corner, it just compromises your straightaway. I mean, the worse you come off that corner, the worse speed you're going to have at the end of the straightaway. So it's important to come off there good and straight.
About 60 seconds left in this qualifying session, and David, we talked about it yesterday. The placement of that timing line, it can be a little misleading and troublesome for those drivers because everybody tries so hard to push towards that line. But you also got to keep in mind, if you get that car upset, you have a chance of throwing away the start of your next lap.
That's right. It's really right in between the 2 corners of turn 8 and 9, or 10. I'm sorry, 9 and 10. And when you try to get into 10, you want to kind of be braking there. But you keep it wide open to cross that line, and it can mess up that next corner, which we've seen Collette go off a couple times in that corner.
Watching Yuven Sundaramurthy as he heads downhill, as he is sitting 3rd for both races at the moment in car 22, looking pretty strong across the timing line. He will continue to sit on that minute 13.0 here in this qualifying session. We are watching guys like Jacob Abel and Yuven Sundaramurthy, those teammates, take shots at Kyle Collette as they are down to just about 12 seconds left here in qualifying for group number 1, the second half of the field. Go on the racetrack here momentarily for their 12-minute session to try to knock Kyle Collette off the provisional pole for both of these races. Let's pick up Jacob Abel as he heads through turn number 4. One more time, Mark James, as Abel is trying to find a good lap, and we've got problems for Nolan Aller on the front straightaway. That's leaving turn number 11, Davey. He's looped it around and is going to spin that thing back around as the checkered flag is out.
Yeah, fortunately, it's not going to hold anybody up because the checkered flag comes out after turn, right there between 9 and 10, so they'll go straight into pit lane. Nobody affected him. Obviously, where he is. It shows a P11 right now. He's just hoping that nobody can beat him. Jamie Chadwick just went from 8th to 6th on the lap previous. We'll see if she's still on track. Going to try to improve that as well.
Jacob Abel's heading towards the timing line, blitzes across it, trying to improve. Doesn't look like he will. His best lap for race number 1 is a minute 12.7, did a minute 12.9 for race number 2. Those are his top 2 laps, and right now it's looking like it's only going to be good enough to put him in row number 2 for both races, because Kyle Collette sits at the top of timing and scoring with the 2 fastest laps in this session. That Brazilian might have just at least secured himself a front row start for both of these events. And if that's the case, Davey, prime position to try to get that first win, which, as Mark James talked about, knocking on the door. He's been very, very fast. And at a place like Laguna Seca, you want to start up as close to the front of the field as possible.
Yeah, difficult plate. There are passing zones, but very difficult to get it done here in a safe manner. So, yeah, he's looking really good. Front row starts in both events. Hopes it's on the pole. But, you know, I don't think it really matters that much going down to turn one. I mean, you want to be on the pole just so you have the pole position. But, you know, I think on going down in turn two, I'm sorry, the hairpin down there, you know, you could take advantage of that corner and come out in the lead no matter where you are in the front row.
So Kyle Collette, the fastest in group number one for both race one and race two. His quick lap at a minute 12.628. That's the lap to beat for the drivers in group number two if they want to have a chance to win the pole for race number one. If they want to win the race for or the pole for race number two, it's going to have to beat a minute 12.68 for Kyle Collette as the Brazilian gets it done here in group number one. Collette,
and he was pushing all the way out there, got off track a couple of times, taking it to the limits here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Talk us through that run, and well done. A provisional pole for not only race number one, but race number two as well.
Thank you very much. I think the car was mega big. Thanks to the HMD crew for all the work they did yesterday and also this morning. And yeah, I was pushing a bit. I think I overpushed a couple of times, but I was just trying to find the limit. And I had 2 good laps, so I knew that I could try and see where the limit was. But unfortunately, yeah, I got off track a couple of times, but then I just didn't have enough to improve in the end. I think I lost a bit the tires, but anyway, I was quite happy with what we did, and hopefully Group 2 doesn't improve.
Fingers crossed for you on that. About the track conditions, it's warmer than it was yesterday, but the track is a heck of a lot cooler than it was. Did that affect you out there when you were qualifying?
A little bit. I would say the first few laps felt amazing, and then I think everything just got a little bit too hot towards the end. So it's something that we need to take into account as well for the race, but I was pretty happy overall.
Cross fingers, cross toes as well. Potentially a provisional pole for not only, again, race number one, race number two, Kyle Collette.
Thank you very much.
He calls Sao Paulo, Brazil home, and again, he's got a spot as well on the front row for both races. The only question will be now if it is P1 or P2 as group number two rolling out of the racetrack for their 12 minutes of qualifying for the Firestone Grand Prix of Monterey doubleheader weekend here in Indy NXT by Firestone. Here are the 10 drivers that'll take the racetrack. Louis Foster, who swept both practice sessions yesterday with mighty quick laps. He'll be out there in car 26 for Andretti Global. He'll be joined by Reese Gold, James Rowe, Jonathan Brown, Christian Brooks making his debut in Indy NXT by Firestone this weekend. Christian Bogle will be on the racetrack as well with Salvador de Alba Jr. We'll see Josh Pearson out there along with Bryce Aaron and Niels Colin as, again, minute 12.62 for race one, minute 12.68 for race number two. If both of those laps get clipped, then the pole sitter will come from this group. Let's go back to the pit lane. Michael Young.
Yeah, with Jacob Abel, didn't get the pole, provisional pole at least at this moment. We talked yesterday at the end of that second practice session. He said the car was a little off balance, a little sketchy. How did it feel with conditions being completely different than they were yesterday?
Yeah, we're definitely getting there. You know, we improved a lot on the parts that we were struggling with yesterday, and now we're not as good as the parts we were good at yesterday. So, yeah, it's really close in this series. You know, props to Kaio for getting it done there, and props to Juven as well. He did really well. So, yeah, you know, I think we're just a little bit behind, but, you know, I hope we'll find it by this afternoon and tomorrow.
How much change will you have in that car? You said it's off where you were good yesterday. Do you go back a little bit, or are you happy with where you are?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. You know, the car is really close now. You know, we were only a 10th off, you know, Kaio there when we were, you know, almost half a second off yesterday. So, yeah, you know, we're making a ton of progress, and, yeah, just looking forward to the race.
Two in both of them. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Jacob Abel.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating, Davey. I don't want to, it's probably premature to say it's time to hit the panic button for Jacob Abel, but there's no doubt that as guys like Louis Foster and Kyle Collette get a little bit faster and a little more competitive week in, week out, we continue to see that championship lead dwindle. So for you know, Jacob Abel, a second row starting spot is good, but there's a very good chance that it might not be good enough when we go racing tomorrow.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's about containing that points lead, and that is not easy to do when you're on top of the hill. Everybody's trying to knock you off that, and you have to stay aggressive. You have to do, you have to continue to do what you did to get you there, and that's not easy to do in your mind. It's like, because you want to protect a little bit, you have a lead, you don't want to make any mistakes, but with the drivers that you have behind you, just super fast and really good teams, you have to go for it. At this point in the season, you still have to be super aggressive. We do have a lot of ovals coming. I think Abel's going to do pretty good on the ovals, but you know, you got to stay very, very active and being good.
Well, Jacob Abel gave props to his teammate. Let's hear from him. Good run, Michael Young, for Yuvan Sundaramurthy. He'll be in row number 3 when we go racing later today.
Yeah, indeed. Row number 3 for both race number 1 and race number 2. Walk us through your qualification session. A very good one, I thought.
Yeah, definitely really happy with how that went. I mean, it's my best qualifying so far. Definitely think there was a little bit more pace in the car. Just I figured it out a little late on the tire. And then, oops, sorry, a hedge dropped a tire there, and it kind of cost us a good lap on the peak of the tire, and then caught a couple cars making a gap. But overall, really happy with that. It was super consistent. The car felt great, so.
We talked about that when people drop tires and you're driving into a cloud of smoke. What is that like in the car? Is it one of those situations where you have to trust that there's nobody on the other side?
Yeah, that's for sure. It's just kind of trusting those guys that they would stay out of the way. But I mean, I can't really say much. I also dropped the tire early in the stint, so the guys behind me were dealing with the same thing. But no, you kind of come through and just hope that your tire didn't pick up too much dust. These Firestones are super grippy, so if you get in any dust, it picks them up. And then you go into the next corner and you don't really know what's going to happen. So that's the main thing. It's the inconsistency with knowing how your tires are going to handle into the next corner.
Heck of a job today. Well done.
Thank you.
Start in row 3 for not only race number 1, but race number 2. That's Yuvan Sundaramurthy.
Yeah, it's a pretty mature response as well, because I can tell you from the camera shots we saw, just about everybody was dropping tires during that Group 1. We'll see what they do here in Group number 2. Mark James, Louis Foster is on the racetrack. He is on a flyer, heading through turn number 4 at the moment in car 26. Back to the left into turn number 5.
On a tear, Nick Yeoman. 3 straight top 2 finishes, a couple of wins, and a second-place finish most recently at Road America. You and I were talking yesterday that perhaps the one that he could look back on if he's able to secure a championship was that disastrous weekend that he had in terms of the start at Barber Motorsports Park, where electrical gremlins didn't allow him to qualify, rolled off at 21st, but recovered to finish in the top 5, and that's the sort of thing it takes to win a championship. Louis Foster, fastest in this session, still has to pedal some to catch Kyle Collette.
Yeah, just got across the timing line and put down a lap of a minute 12.7, so that is a 10th off of what Kyle Collette was able to do. Reese Gold just put down a lap at a minute 13 flat. Then it's James Rowe, Bryce Aaron, and Salvador De Alba. We see Bryce Aaron heading up towards the corkscrew. He gets on the brakes and bends that car down to the left of that downhill portion of the racetrack. Boy, Davey, he slung it in there. That car almost looked like it was off the ground as he was just pitching it in and catching it.
You know, when you hit that corner just a little bit late entry, you get all the tires off the ground, and that's exactly what he did. Got on there super hard, got the front tires off the ground. That happens, but you know, it doesn't always slow you down, as we see. Whoa, man, we got some cars definitely early on going off track, throwing a lot of dust around.
Yeah, Mark James, Reese Gold kicked up some dust. We're seeing drivers do that all over the racetrack as they navigate this 11-turn racetrack.
Well, Kyle Collette showed that that's a fast way around the racetrack. I don't know if anybody can duplicate that or not, but talking about Reese Gold, that's a guy who's been on a bit of a tear lately. After 11th place finish in the second half of the doubleheader of the Indianapolis GP, he finished 6th at Detroit and 4th at Road America. He's been fast all weekend long through the 2 practice sessions. He's looking for a good starting position to buoy him towards maybe a top 5 finish in the points.
Davey Hamilton, Louis Foster has secured the pole for race number 1, or at least for now. We'll see if anyone can knock off this lap, but I'm not sure anyone's got anything for him. A minute 12.176. What a lap for the British driver for Andretti Global.
Yeah, almost a half a second quicker than Collette, which is pretty amazing. What is half a second? Man, that is just unbelievable. Foster is on a roll right now. He's second that championship. He's doing everything he has to do to go to the front. By the way, Reese Gold, he's second so far behind Foster to 113. He's 0.8 of a second behind Foster, who's leading this field as we see. Alba Jr. spin out, coming on that front straightaway off turn 11. We've seen that earlier on in the first practice session. Unfortunately, D'Alba his tires. It probably hurt his tires. Looks like he actually clipped some. His nose wings obscured. Not a good quality. Yeah, no, his nose wings messed up. He's going to have to pit. He hit the nose of that wall. Hopefully no debris comes off that car as he makes it around.
Yeah, he's heading into turn number 1 right now, and the right front portion of that front wing is dragging on the ground, and we can see the nose of that car punched in as well, and that red, white, and green car for Andretti Cape Motorsports, the driver from Mexico, the multiple-time NASCAR Mexico Series champion, and that thing, let's be honest, Mark James, they don't steer very well when they got stuff dragging on the racetrack.
No, and we're getting a look at the replay. Davey, he just caught it plenty wide coming off of that final turn and spun it around and made light contact with that inside retaining wall.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier, Mark, is that coming off turn 11 right there, they're going above those rumble strips and getting really sideways, and that lines you up for a long straightaway. That's the last thing you want to do. You want to have good traction coming off that corner because it increases your mile per hour all the way down into turn 2. You slide there, it's not good. And what he did, he just got on the gas way too hard. And instead of working into it, he just gassed it and spun those tires, got in the dirt, and plugged it right in that inside wall.
5 minutes to go in qualifying. Louis Foster provisionally has the pole for race 1. Kyle Collette still on the pole for race number 2. Michael Young, as Foster is heading towards the corkscrew. Here's the time dwindles in qualifying.
Here comes Salvador de Alba right on cue. The wing, as you guys had mentioned, was really askew. That front right is hanging down. He'll come to the attention of that crew. But I did want to mention that Reese Gold, that last time by, went off the track when you were talking about de Alba's woes. He had the back end nearly step out as well, kicked up a lot of dust, was able to save the car, but it will cost him a quick lap.
Louis Foster, Davey Hamilton continuing to lay down some big laps with 4 minutes to go in qualifying.
Yeah, he's out putting a clinic on right now, isn't he? I mean, Nick, this is unbelievable. I mean, he's a 112.1 for the first race at a 112.444, and the second by far quicker than anybody else. So he actually could probably just come in and give his car a little break. I mean, there's only 4 minutes left, so he's going to take a few more laps. But wow, what a job he's done in this qualifying session.
What do you attribute this to, Davey? I mean, this is pretty significant that one driver is this much faster than everybody. Is it momentum? Is it clicking with the team? Is it a combination of everything?
Well, you got to look at a little bit of everything because, you know, he has teammates, so, you know, their cars are the same as his. We haven't seen big gaps like this in Indy NXT. I mean, usually the times are right on top of each other. And I think Foster just has some confidence right now. He feels like the momentum's there. He's got a lot of confidence. That team obviously has confidence in him. And the setup they're using really fits his style, and right now he's dominating this qualifying session.
It is Foster, Gold, Pearson, Brooks, and Aaron, the top 5 for race number 1. Here in group number 2, we see Reese Gold bending that steering wheel to the right, trying to give chase, but again, is not able to come more than about a half a second of what Louis Foster just did. Christian Brooks has turned some good laps so far in this qualifying session. Davey Hamilton, and right now looking at a top 10 start. That's a young man that you've known for quite a long time, getting a great opportunity to run at Indy NXT this weekend.
Yeah, no, great opportunity for Brooks, and glad to see that opportunity for him. He's been wanting to be here for a long time, has the talent to be here, and he's in a car that he knows that could win, so that puts a little pressure on him. He knows that car. It was third in the championship coming into, you know, last weekend or a few weeks ago in Road America, and that Nolan that got out of that car wins races and championships. So a lot of pressure, but he's doing a good job. He's ready for it. I think he deserves to be here. He needs to be here, and right now he gets to race that car the rest of the season too, Nick. So it's gonna get better as it goes. But he's in P9 right now in race number 2, or now in race number 1, I think it is. My timing scoring goes back and forth. I can't keep up with it.
Yeah, it is a lot to track at the moment. We are watching Josh Pearson make his way through turn number 4. Mark James, he is headed towards corner number 5, and that bright green and white car chasing after guys like Christian Brooks, who are heading up towards the corkscrew.
Yeah, Christian Brooks gets to the corkscrew first, and Josh Pearson trying to put together a solid second half, back-to-back top 10 finishes. He finished 8th at Detroit and 7th at Road America. Good-looking race car and a driver with a lot of promises piloting that machine for HMD Motorsports.
23 years old from California. He'll slide that car across the timing line and does not appear to be able to improve. And Davey, I think Louis Foster took your advice. That car has come to pit lane with a minute and a half to go. I think he's done. I think he's very confident that those laps that he laid down are good enough and that nobody's got anything for him.
Yeah, when the next driver to you, which is Gold, is almost a full second behind you, yeah, that gives you a lot of confidence. They're not going to find that, and the reason why you're not going to get that much more out of the tires. I mean, their tires are on their downside right now for these drivers, not on the upside. You've got the good out of them, and so, yeah, he can confidently come in and give his car a little rest, give him a little rest, and know that he's going to be on the pole at both events today and tomorrow.
Mark James, the other 9 drivers are going to continue to pound away here with 50 seconds to go. But, boy, that's a statement to see him out of the race car already and good to go.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of statements lately, as we well documented. We see Josh Pearson running off course, as many drivers have done throughout the course of these 2 qualifying sessions. But, again, tip of the cap to Reese Gold. As we mentioned, starting to heat up just a little bit. And second quick in this session. Looks like he's going to roll off third for race number 2. So a couple of good starting positions for Reese Gold as he heats up in the second half of the season.
Yeah, we certainly don't want to hand the championship to either Jacob Abel or Louis Foster, but it certainly seems like as we crest into the second half of the season that the title will be decided between those 2. But third place very much up in the air as Kyle Collette's got about a 23-point advantage over Reese Gold, who sits 5th. He'll move up past Nolan Siegel, who has thrown away his season to go race in IndyCar. But Gold is about 23 points behind Collette. So is Callum Hedge. 5 back is Miles Rowe, 13 back the Orlando. So still a very, very competitive battle for third in the championship. Checker flag is out on this qualifying session. Everybody will get to complete their last laps around this 11-turn road course. But again, the time to beat Louis Foster's minute 12.1 for race 1, minute 12.4 for race number 2. And if Group 2 is anything like Group 1, Davey, we didn't see a lot of lap speeds increasing or improving towards the end of the qualifying session. After it seems like you turn 8-9 laps on these tires, they start to fade away.
Yeah, that's right. And they're pretty consistent, as you just said, for all cars doing that. We've seen Aaron jump up to that 7th starting spot for race number 1, and Pearson falling down to the 9th. So that puts him 4th and 5th in the session. So a little change up there, but you're right. As these tires wear down, they're really fast still and still consistent and good for the race. But any tire that's brand new is the best for qualifying. And you only have 2 or 3 laps to get the best out, but then it starts falling off from there.
Watching the last couple drivers like Josh Pearson and Bryce Aaron head towards the timing line, and it appears that everybody has cleared it and brought their cars back to pit lane. And Michael Young, that means Louis Foster has secured himself 2 more pole positions. It's pole number 3 and 4 for this 2024 season.
Put on quite a clinic out there in this morning qualification session. Louis Foster, your 4th pole of 2024, and smiles all about. That was a heck of a job. Or was that number? Yeah, he thought too. It's pole number 4, correct, Nick?
3 and 4.
3 and 4. Yeah, you got 2 there. So yeah, it's he even questioned. I'm like, well, so when the driver doesn't remember, you know you've been very fast and very quick. So walk us through that run. You got out with a minute and a half left to go. You're a second quicker than everybody else. I think you, this team, Michael Andretti, Rob Edwards, everything is just gelling for you right now.
Yeah, I mean, we had obviously started off yesterday really well. Had two firsts in both practice sessions. Car's been in the window. We haven't changed it much. I've just been out there and doing my thing, really. But yeah, big thank you to Andretti. The plan was to save tires. I think I didn't have the information to know where we were and if we should have boxed or not, so I left that up to the team, and they made the correct decision. So yeah, just save tires, because this race is usually quite tough on tires. But yeah, no, obviously happy to get double pole. We've got a race now, so we're looking forward to it.
We have a lot of smiles from everybody here in this Andretti Global Camp. What has been the difference these last few races? You've just been blindingly quick. Is it you? Is it the car? Is it everything just gelling at once?
I think it's the same story as last year, to be honest with you. I haven't gone any faster. We just have had less gremlins to deal with, I mean, the story of the season. I don't need to explain it to you. So, but yeah, I mean, obviously super happy that everything's going our way now, finally. This is where we should be. This is where we deserve to be. Everyone here works super, super hard. The 26 crew did an amazing job. So yeah, super happy, and let's go race.
Heck of a job. Congratulations.
Cool. Thank you.
Back-to-back poles this weekend here at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. That's Louis Foster.